The Blues. This is only an hour program. What's wrong with them?
Don't think they've selected terribly well. I think they seem to get themselves into a bit of a bind each year with their player roster. Number one, they haven't had a first 5/8, genuine first 5/8. The guy that they were looking to for first 5/8 has come back late and not in good condition. They've allowed players to be on sabbatical for 6 months since Woodcock last played. They've had Nonu in Japan. What does that do to a team? I couldn't fathom that, where everyone's working hard to try and get a result and half of them aren't there. I think they've got a lot of players who are on the decline. You know, there's a lot of players that aren't. It's a young man's game, enthusiastic and energetic, and they've got to stand for something too, the Blues. And I can't tell what it is that they do stand for. You can see in the Crusaders what they stand for. Look at it, they're hard-nosed, not playing terribly well, but you know what they stand for and you know what they're trying to achieve. Our guys, you don't know what they're trying to achieve.
Dowdy?
Oh, I think, you know, everything that Andy said there's fair.
What would you add?
What would I add? A bit of consistency with, like you say, the selection-wise. We need a 10. I think what we've seen with young Bowden Barrett and other franchises, they said, you're 10.
Well, Dowdy, this is where I'm confused. I watched them win against the Bulls.
Yeah.
And the Bulls thrashed the Reds last week, well, 60-odd points. But the day that they beat the Bulls, they had Anscombe at first 5/8. He scored all the points. I don't think he started since, has he?
Well, that's where I was leading to before
exactly.
you jumped
before
in
I
there.
interrupted.
But I mean, like I say,
Okay,
with
I'll
Bowden
shut up.
Barrett, they're both at the 20s last year. He needs to be given the jersey. He needs to learn and to get used to being in that saddle. But he's definitely got long-term potential. You know, I think he's a great player.
Andrew?
Yeah,
The
I
head
think
that gets called for all the time is your mate's head. He's a mate of all of ours, so it's going to be difficult, this. But we've got to be accurate because the people out here want to know. Should Pat go?
Oh, definitely not. You know, I've been coached by Pat, so I know what he's about. I think
Well, why is he not having success? You know, I ran into Grant Fox coming back from Queenstown. He said the same as what you said. He said it's not Liam's fault. And I said, well, hang on, it's somebody's fault because we're watching the biggest city going down the tubes in rugby.
Yeah, I think there's a wider issue in Auckland in terms of not just the coaching staff. I think it's a wider throughout the whole union. I also, you know, I take my kids to the game, which the kids love the Blues, but you know, watching from the stand, and there's none of those crunching tackles. You know, defence wins games. You look at Crusaders, you look at the teams that are leading the board at the moment, you look at their defence, and they're not leading through tries. And for me, if the Blues want to improve and get better, they've got to be, like Andy said, they've got to be a team that stands for something. Well,
look how
at the moment,
for
at the moment, nobody's tackling, nobody's holding the ball, and not many people are catching the ball on the line out. So for me, really, if their attitude is to smash people in the tackle and stand for that.
Look, I'm the outsider in this group. I didn't come from this province. I went and watched you play. I loved it. The great Auckland sides. I watched both of you play. You came in just before him, and there you were, and I loved those sides play. Mate, I've got to be front up with you. I'm not wasting my time in going and watching that drivel at the moment because that's what it is. And I turn on the TV and I feel that it's drivel. But I'm not getting the explanation that I deserve as a fan here from you fellas. Why the hell doesn't it happen?
Losses don't seem to mean much. It doesn't seem to hurt them a lot. They treat them as almost a sort of, oh, well, we lost and we'll try and rectify it next week. And what I've noticed with the Blues over quite a long period of time, maybe a decade, is they can beat the top team and just as easily lose to the bottom team the next week. And there's that arrogance that says they're better, they think they're better than they probably are. They've had first crack at a lot of the talent, and yet once they get in the Blues, they tend to coast. And I just think that there's not that degree of desperation that you get down in the other sides. When they start off the bottom rung of the ladder, like they've done at the Highlanders, with a hard-nosed coach, or at the Hurricanes, at the Hurricanes when they've fired out all their top names and they've got a tough attitude, they go in there and they know they're desperate and they play with desperation. The Blues don't play with desperation, and oh well, laissez-faire about the whole thing when the loss comes up and it doesn't hurt them, and that annoys me terribly.
Dowdy, the other thing
I don't 100% agree with that because
go for it then.
Well, Daniel Braid played like an absolute madman. And you can see Tom McCartney went out there, just the hurt, and Ellie Williams, the hurt on their faces at the final whistle of the game we just saw showed enough to me that they actually do care. But what we're seeing is a team not gelling as a team. No, throughout, I mean, it's easy to say the Blues don't care. I mean, I can probably pick a handful of players that they do, they hurt.
Against the best team, against the Hurricanes. A minute to go. They've got the game under control. Their theoretically their most experienced player kicks it over the top, gives them the opportunity to score a try, and so they do. The Hurricanes do. That to me says, well, okay, well, you have a go. We've had a go.
Well, then that's another part of the game, and it's a real bugbear of mine. The individualism within the team sport. The guys thinking about the hero stuff. The stuff I'm going to look good. Scoring a try and thanking the guy upstairs when you should be thanking the guy that must threw you the pass. That's all showboating, and I know there's a segment you're going to talk about later. Yeah. If you're genuinely playing for the guys around you, and you mentioned earlier on, about smashing. The greatest team talk we ever had was Michael Jones saying, "Guys, we're going to go out there and we're just going to smash them. We're going to go to the war for each other, and we're just going to go out and do that." And getting a team that's going to go out and do that, you're going to get a performance.
That's what I don't see in the Blues, but I see it at the Chiefs. I see it in the Hurricanes. They're doing that now.
Yeah. And where does it come from? Does it come from the coach? Because
a lot of it from the coach.
And that is where the question is about Pat. Much and all as we all like him, that if he doesn't get a result, surely he's got to go.
We've got to stand for something.
7-4 under Pat, and now they're right at the bottom.
Yeah, you have to stand for something, and if there's that degree of desperation that comes with the coach, he was desperate last year, Hammett, and he turned that thing around. That's a huge credit to him.
Look at this, Andy and Craig, and tell us in particular. There's their scrum going under. Now, I must have watched you in a scrum for 5 years going to Eden Park, and I can't remember an Auckland scrum going back.
Yeah, you watch Peter Saili pulling off his props arse there. First and foremost, he's got no loose forward to push off. So this is a big no-no.
I'd be just as concerned with their line-out. 2 All Black locks, and they don't manage to get a line-out ball under control in the first 3 games.
Hang on, it's worse than that, with an All Black hooker throwing into them.
And an All Black hooker throwing in. And so they had time to be able to get at least that part of their game under control. It's not terribly hard. It showed that they weren't terribly interested in getting it right.
Andrew, there's a point that you made that's going to get glossed over unless I go back to it, and I want to go back to it. It was the point you said there is something wrong about the way that Auckland goes about it, or the Blues go about the business, and it's the culture thing. So here's what I want to ask you. Is it a clean-out from top to bottom, or at least an independent look at the chairman of the board and all the board, the CEO, Andy Dalton, and the coaching staff? Is the whole thing wrong? Because you can't tell me that a dynasty should be going down the way this has gone down.
Well, that's a hard one, because I don't know exactly what's going on in there. But there needs to be a shake-up, because it does come from the top and it filters through the team. I'm not saying coaching-wise. I think Pat is doing a good job.
Can't agree, because a good coach wins, a poor coach loses.
Definitely, but I still think it's got to come within. I remember coming into a team when Dowdy, Fitzy and Olo were the front row, and as a 19-year-old coming into the team, it was on the training field. It wasn't Graham Henry giving us the speech in the changing room or the game plans. Yeah, they're definitely important. Don't get me wrong that, a great coach gives a great team plan. But it was the players that, as soon as we crossed that field onto Eden Park to train, I can remember my first training holding a hit shield, and we were doing defence around the circle, and Fitzy looked at me and he thought, oh, look at this youngster. And he came over and skimmed the top of the bag and whacked me. And I went flying back. I got back up and he just looked at me. And I wasn't going to give anything to him that I was hurt or anything. Right. But I came straight back.
That hard edge not there now.
I believe that it's got to come in within the circle itself as the team, because the team, of course, coaches can coach, but I still think that toughness has got to be at training.
You start off, you get your players in the right positions for a start, and then you get some guy like Hammett's done, who says, I don't care whether your name is Nonu, Wepu, Gia, Hor, There's the door if you're not prepared to play in this fashion. This is what we stand for. This is who we are, and this is what we're going to do. And if you don't like it, off you go. And we're not doing that in Auckland at the moment. We're half-hearted about it. We are saying to these guys, turn up late, turn up unprepared, give it half your effort once you get there. That's not going to work.
See, Dowdy, most people think, outside of Auckland, as you know, that Auckland is latte-drinking, Ponsonby, Parnell people all sitting around. They think that they're a bunch of softies. And yet Auckland is a vibrant, energetic city, and when the great Auckland teams were playing, they played with all that vitality, all that enthusiasm. Oh, I don't see that now. Yeah. I don't think that they represent our area.
Well, let's say with centralised contracting these days, you don't have to actually pick from the area. It's about getting... And I think some good points were made just now about getting that core bunch of leadership guys that you revolve a team around. And obviously, you know, with the likes of Smith and Eaton and, you know, what the Canes have done is they've got a bunch of players that was either front up or get lost. And they fronted up, and they're actually now turning into the leadership group within that. You look at the Blues and who the leadership group is and just what they're doing, because I know that what AB talked about with what Fitzy did to him, you know, Andy would have done that to a lot of youngsters coming through, you know. Gary Wetton and Fitzy probably did it to me as well when I came in, but it was just part of that group. A coach is almost a facilitator and a manager at that level, because he's right. The players have to take responsibility. They're the ones out there on the field, and the players don't take responsibility, and they keep looking towards the coach and say, what do we do? Then something's wrong.
We've got a bit of a player roster in the Blues also that's on the decline.
Yeah, you made the point before.
And these other sides are young and energetic, and it's a young man's game, this.
It's something that you've just touched on. It's something that you've said many occasions on this program, the significance and importance of the leadership team, the senior pros in a side, because those of us who have not played at the level that the three of you have played at always think the coach is more important. But I've heard you on a lot of occasions emphasise this.
There's no doubt. It's a central core. And it's like a death in the family if one of the central core goes missing. And that's what generates wins. Against, especially the wins at crucial times. Right. And that's why I was very angry with Periwepu's effort the other night. He wasn't on the same wavelength as some of the others who you mentioned, Braid for one, who and they've missed two players, Kaino and Tuiava, with injury, but they still looked like that when they played their first game, and those guys were there against the Crusaders. They looked average.
We've also seen a coach make a difference to an outfit. And I want to talk about Dave Rennie. I don't know much about him. You probably know a lot more. But he's making a difference at the Chiefs, along with his coaching staff, along with Smith helping him.
He has simplified everything. He's got himself a management team around him. He's laid down a very simplistic game plan. And what he's done, obviously he has his leadership group already. And he's just, guys, this is how we're going to play.
Did he also depart and took Cruden with him?
Yeah, he brought the players.
Do you need a playmaker? Do you need someone who can run the game? Someone who can steady the ship to start off with? And that's what he's got. He's 5'8" who can do that. We got a poor selection policy when we got a halfback playing at first five and a very young novice first five. If we're going to put confidence in a young first five, play him there. Yeah. Keep playing him.
Definitely.
Well, let's look at somebody who is playing well, and gee, he is. He's our 2 times U Performer of the Week. He's playing for the Highlanders. He got 3 tries, and that's almost unique. There have been blokes that have got 3 tries before. In fact, Ross Filippo got 3 tries. He's the last one. You wouldn't have picked that. But have a look at Adam Thompson.
The Southland core of this team going about their business. Now Thompson tries to get the offload away and it's cleaned up. 42 and a half on the clock. Someone call half time. There's the width ball from Hudson. Get Adam Thompson. And Thompson back into rebel territory once more. Wide cutout ball from Jason Rutledge. Adam Thompson holds on to the pass. Well, it's relentless, John Preston. And they go wide again. Here's Ben Smith. Beautiful. Here's Ben Smith. Adam Thompson in for a double. You cannot see me, says 18. Try number 3, Highlanders. Happy to carve off some metres. Now Smith away to Thompson again. Now Ben Smith. Still has the touch, Jimmy Cowan. Speaking of touch, here's Adam Thompson again over the line. It's another try for Thompson. 3 for the night. He's knackered.
Oh, he's enjoying it though. 3 now for Thompson.
Andrew, playing in your old position, are you impressed with him?
Yeah, I like the way he's scoring tries out wide. I like the way he's scoring tries in close. You know, that complete player. You know, it's easy to score tries on the wing. The forwards do the hard work and hang out there for a rest out there and score tries. But he's doing the hard yards, you know. I mean, he's scoring them in close.
And we need him to be playing well, don't we, with Kaino out?
Well, that's it. He's quite clearly seen there's a vacancy. You know, number 6 jersey's free at the moment, so he's putting his hand up saying, hey, Shag, pick me.
Yeah, and you know, I remember he played well before the World Cup too in Super Rugby last year.
And I also think that Jamie Joseph has got his pushing his button. And he's got him playing extremely well. They wouldn't have been that happy about Jamie Joseph joining them down there. Maybe he was going to be a little bit abrasive for them, but I tell you what, they'd be happy with him now. Yeah. He's put the acid right on those guys. He takes no prisoners, and he's getting results with what looked like quite an ordinary team. If you lined the Blues up and lined their team up, all they had was youth and energy, and now they're producing results against a side as one's that way.
And what you get happen in those situations is that players come through who perhaps would never be All Blacks and they become All Blacks. And this guy, Aaron Smith, may become an All Black, the halfback.
I'd be very surprised if he doesn't become an All Black. And we talk about playmakers, important position. He is a playmaker. Game, you know? He reads the game very, very well. You know, he can put players into gaps. He sniffs out a try line. He's everything you want from a halfback with a fantastic pass.
Well, we've got a few good ones around though. Kerbarlo's another one.
He played well the other night.
Young players good around.
And that's the most exciting thing. We started talking about the conference system, which upsets us all. But the whole point is that the players are still there and there's still some good games to watch. Yeah. Top games, you know.
And that the fans aren't supporting the Super 15, though, in New Zealand. In other places, they are. And I think it's because there are too many little things that aren't quite right. Judiciary, we've talked about one. When you look at if you go there, the amount of entertainment perhaps is not as good as the NRL. That sort of stuff, it means that the crowd numbers drop off. And then you get all the problems like you've had with Otago. You know, they just don't have fans coming through the gate in enough numbers to pay the wages.
Right, the champs, and they are the bench setters. They'll come right. The Crusaders will be there at the end. Yeah,
they always are. You know, I think they'll get even better. You know, they're a team that they'll go through a little dip, but they always come to the occasion, and you know, when it counts, they're there.
They've got a reasonable first 5'8" too.
Yeah, well,
and not a bad leadership group either.
Reasonable leadership group. So they've had it right for a long time.
Yeah.
All credit to them.